Hello, it's the 17th of July. This is Video Every Morning. I'm Paul Anderson-Walsh and welcome along again. Thank you for joining me for another postcard of grace. Well, today we're going to look at somebody who probably is in the footnotes of our stories, but actually he was front page in a story about Jeremiah. And I'm going to talk to you about a man called Ebed Melech. Now, he's the advocate from the margins, the outsider who spoke up. And I think his story is very interesting because to me his story talks about the importance of being an upstander and not just being a bystander. So many of us in life are bystanders, aren't we? We see an injustice and we kind of shake our heads and we tell people about it afterwards. But how often do we risk and take the risk of being an upstander, of actually standing up and saying, hold on a minute. Now, there is a verse in Jeremiah 39 and verse 18. It's just a very simple statement, but let me tell you what it says. Because you put your trust in me, I will rescue you. A lovely statement. Because you put your trust in me, I will rescue you. Well, now, if you're not familiar with Ebed Melech, let me tell you a little bit about him. He was an Ethiopian and he was a eunuch. All right, so though you need to hold both of those things in your mind because they're important to our story. So he's a foreigner who's serving in a collapsing Judean court, right? For what happened was the convention for the conventional community of its time. This man carries a double stigma. Today we talk about intersectionality, where you have different aspects of your social identity that cause you, the more aspects you have that are stigmatized is called the intersectionality, is when more than one aspect of diversity stacks on top of another. And here we have a brilliant example. We have an Ethiopian, stigma number one, eunuch, stigma number two. So he's doubly stigmatized, and what it suggests to us, what it's messaging to us, is he's a man who is considered to be both unclean and unworthy. Now, in those days, there was a saying, and as horrendous as it is, listen to this: can an Ethiopian change his skin? Well, that is a phrase that is so loaded, so freighted with prejudice and so freighted with permanence that you're stuck with it, that it's difficult to see how this person would be able to operate within the religious realm. But of course, this is the whole point about the majesty of grace. Now, remember here, this wonderful man is going to come and he's going to break open this stereotype. He's going to smash it and break it open completely, open wide. And there's something very powerful about that when somebody who is an outsider comes to the insider, the other who comes to the same as, and does something that makes you go, what? And the temptation afterwards is to believe in exceptionalism. Well, it's just him, so we can kind of discount that. But he is the first fruit in this particular story. Now, what has happened? Well, the thing to bear in mind here is that when God will often take an outsider to fulfill his purposes, not least of which because the insiders don't seem to be very, very much up for it. And here's proof, by the way, that God doesn't check passports and he doesn't check pedigree. I say that for a very good reason. There are no borders. There are no borders in the universal community of love. And when the prophet Jeremiah is thrown into a cistern and left to starve, nobody intervenes. No one, that is, except Ebed Melech. He's got no political clout. He doesn't have any influence. He's got no position. He's got no tribe to defend him. He's got nothing. But he had the courage of his convictions. He went to the king and he pled for justice. And remarkably, almost astonishingly, the king listened to him. So then Ebed Melech gathered some worn-out rags and ropes and tied a very humble toolkit and personally led the rescue. And literally, his message, this is my point about upstanders and bystanders, he didn't just speak up, he showed up, he actually did the stuff. And this benevolent, kind eunuch teaches us something powerful. Kindness is not limited by status. I have to be somebody to be kind. That's mankind, humankind, get it? Kind. Kindness is not limited by status. It's something you can achieve great service with no status. You can be superior to your surroundings without becoming arrogant or without becoming bitter. He loved Jeremiah and he risked his life to save him, and he did it without any need for applause, any need for reward. And isn't it striking how that echoes forward? You know my point about exceptionalism. Well, another Ethiopian eunuch appears in Acts chapter 8, a spiritual seeker who's met by Philip. And I just wonder to myself, could this be a really nice example of a paid forward legacy? I just wonder, could it be that the spiritual legacy of Ebed Melech lingered in the life of the Ethiopian eunuch? A sign that even in the margins, God is planting seeds. Because the Lord speaks to Philip and says, go to the road, there's a man who you need to see. And you know what happens? Philip runs up, meets the Ethiopian eunuch who was on his way back from worshipping. Maybe we'll do him as a postcard one day, so I won't spoil that right now. But a very interesting story. But here's the point. Because you trusted in me, I will surely save you. You see, God doesn't forget. And that's why I wonder about this planting seeds. In Jeremiah 39, as the city falls, as judgment rains down, the message just comes for Ebed Melech. Because you have trusted me, I will surely save you. Well, what a renewing thought we have today. You don't need a platform to be prophetic. You don't need a title to make a difference. You don't need to belong to speak the truth. You don't even need to belong to the system to change it, maybe. He's not a prophet. He's not a priest. He's not a king. He was a servant, but heaven called him brave. So, you know what? If you know what it is to be stigmatized today, if you know what it means to live with labels, or the double exclusion perhaps, remember this. God doesn't rank people by how they look and what they do with love. Ebed Melech didn't just speak truth. He literally lowered the rope and he lifted somebody else out of the pit. And may you have the opportunity to do that today in any way possible, because for sure, somewhere in your life, there will be a Jeremiah who's been abandoned and thrown into a cistern. And maybe it's because of you that Jeremiah will be able to write. Jeremiahs of today will be able to write. His mercies are new every morning. God bless you. Bye-bye.